Alright, I've got the windscreen on, this piece of photo etch, and I've masked off the sensor on the end with mask Sol, Mr. Masking Sol R. I had a bit of an issue with this windscreen for some reason. It kept pulling in from this side, leaving a step. So I glued one side, let it set, then I run glue around the other side, and I used a peg to put over the nose to try and pull it down and pull it out. It helped a little bit. I still needed to clean it up on that edge, so when I paint or prime, I have to check those rivet details are still there. I didn't use micro crystal clear. That's what I normally use. This one I used extra thin. You can use extra thin, just be careful with it. Knock glue off the brush, don't have it fully loaded up, and you just touch the bottom, get at it from the bottom, don't come out from the top, and the capillary action will just run along. Yeah, larger models I'll use extra thin if it's safe to do so. So that fit alright. Now I have to paint that, obviously, and there's still on the inside these pieces will go, so that one and that one, but I think what I'll do is I'll paint this top, mask it off for painting the aircraft, and at the end I'll put this in when I put the seat in. Otherwise, if I glue it in now and I try masking, which I haven't decided how I'm going to do it yet, so I need to get, I'll probably use tape to cover up the windscreen section so the overspray doesn't go in, and I might just use some sponge or something in there, but a bit awkward with all that photo etch. And I still need to do the main canopy also has photo etch on the interior sides, and I've got to put the plastic kit parts mounted onto the canopy. I cut out that plastic there to have it open. I'll see how I go, whether I need to do it a bit more of an angle or not. I've made up the main gear legs, so I cut off plastic part. I did use the photo etch there, so that originally was a solid plastic part, and I put the photo etch on it. Honestly, it's hardly worthwhile, but I did it anyway, seeing I paid for it. I've done the nose gear to an extent. The opposite part for there will go on when I put the wheel in. You can't glue that in now, otherwise you can't get the wheel on. Same again here, I cut off the kit parts. This one though, you cut off the kit part, but you have to cut the end off the kit part and put it back on the photo etch. Again, a lot of hassle for little to show for it really, but anyway. Yeah, so and I use the, obviously, well not obviously, you got the mask set that came with this boxing, so I use that on the windscreen, but it doesn't cover the whole windscreen. You're left with that. You can see I've put Tamiya tape over where there was a hole, oval shaped hole. Again, if they're going to make a mask, why don't they make a mask that covers the whole windscreen? Alright, so I finished priming, checked over again. There was a couple of areas I needed to clean up. This is why it's a good idea to prime. It highlights little imperfections or things you missed. A lot of people, one of the usual arguments on social media is people arguing over priming or not priming. Well, if you don't want to prime, don't prime, but for me, I prime for that reason, to find little imperfections that need cleaning up before you go into the paint stage. Alright, so I've used a piece of scourer as a splatter template, because this is the white section I'm painting first of the aircraft. I used because I primed with grey, I didn't want to use black for the splatter because I pre-shaded with black, so I used a dark sea grey. It's just to change the hue of the white when it goes on. Another good one you'll see on social media is the people taking the piss, the models who do pre-shading. That picture of the F-104 with the grid on it. Again, if you don't want to pre-shade, don't do it. But this is my opinion. If this is part of the weathering stage, you're putting the paint over the top and it's changing the hue to suggest grime, fading, just weathering of the paint. And if you don't think aircraft don't get like that, go and Google a Greek or Hellenic Air Force A7 Corsair or an F4 Phantom and you'll see it there. My opinion is, if you don't, this is for me, obviously everyone, at the end of the day, it's your model, you should build it however you want, and no one should really have an opinion on that. For me, if I didn't pre-shade or post-shade and painted a model, it would just look like a die-cast model, like a toy, and I don't see the point. You might as well go out and buy a Hobby Master model of the aircraft you're building and save yourself some time. So I'm going to paint the white mask off. This will be a hard edge camo, so I'll use Tamiya tape to mask it off. And then when I come to the grey section, I'll use a splatter template with the scourer again, and this time I'll use white and pre-shade with black again, as white will work better with the grey paint on top. If I used white on the underside, you will see a difference, but it won't be as much as with using a different colour, grey. So the white I'm using is Insignia white, AK real colour, and the upper surface, the grey, is light gold grey. Again, I'm using AK real colour, so it's FS16440. The paint callouts and instructions just call for just normal white, but I think, pretty sure Navy aircraft were Insignia white. So I'm going to do that one, the Hunters, so I don't need to paint the rudder white on that because the decal covers it all. If you're doing the Checkers or the CAG bird, you would need to paint the rudder white as well, because all the control surfaces are white. Now, I've done the white, but didn't go to plan, so the splatter technique I used wasn't really showing through. So option, I could go back over the final paint and use a splatter again, but I didn't really want to do that in case I got into a bigger hole. So what I did is I got some buff, so I mixed up some of the Insignia white and just put a touch of Tamiya buff into it, and then mottled, so wound the needle right in and just went over it and randomly mottled just to change the hue of the white, to break it up, so you can still see the pre-shading, the dark areas where the black was. So I just had to I was just going to leave it at that, but I just wanted a little bit more, so I did that with the buff. I don't know how well that shows up, but I can see a difference now, which I'm happy with, as I always keep things pretty subtle. I don't, I mentioned before about pre-shading and that, but it's still, once I do the paint, it's still a subtle effect for myself. Before I go on to the grey, I'm going to spray the nose, and the black goes up on the windscreen and past where the canopy sits, so it'll go, pick this up. I need to paint black, so the windscreen up until there. So I'll mask that off. Well, I'll paint it and then I can mask off to do the grey. I'll need to mask on the underside those so I don't get black onto my where I've painted white, and I'll use NATO, Tamiya NATO black for that, and I'll paint in the metal work on the rear end before I go to the grey, then I can mask it off. Also, that section of the burner can or the engine area, but there's a bit more that comes out from there for where the stabilizer moves up and down. I guess it's a wear plate section, so I'll do that as well. So I'll do that, then I'll mask that off, and then I can do the grey. Bottom masked off. As mentioned, I'm doing a hard edge camo, so just straight line Tamiya tape. If I was doing a soft feathered edge, I'd use white tack rolls. And so I did white through the splatter this time, through the Scotch-Brite scourer, lost for words, and the pre-shading. So that's ready now for paint, which was the light gold grey. I'm going to do that now. Then give it a gloss coat, and I need to come back. I missed a bit here for the pre-shading. Come back and do that first. And one there. Good job. Alright, the grey is done. Much more happy with the result with the light gold grey than I did with the white. Must have been having a bad paint day yesterday. It's turned out better with the effect of the splatter. Also probably too because it was white, so it does change the hue of the paint easily. And pre-shading showing through. So now I can just have another check out, make sure it's all right, then I can remove all my masking, and then I need to start, I can do the decals on the aircraft, which will be a bit of a process because there's quite a bit of stencil data, not as much as a Phantom, but there's still a bit going on. I still need to do the canopy, the seat. I still haven't touched the seat again since my first go with them. That's how much I hate it. I've painted the rockets up. I got to paint in the warhead part of it, the olive drab and the metal parts. Yeah, so just about, there's still those small bits of photo which I go on right at the end, so I don't bump them off. Yeah, I just need to paint in a couple of these parts that go under that wing. So getting in some good progress now.